Alrighty guys, it is Qaaman here today, and today we're going to talk about the piracy problem of Dragon Ball Super Hero, and the fact that, as reported by Dragon Ball Super Chronicles, the stolen footage rate for Dragon Ball Super Hero is approximately 10 times that of Dragon Ball Super Broly. And while Dragon Ball Super Broly was a much more popular movie, you would think, hey, you know, why wouldn't that movie have a lot more pirated footage and stolen footage online? But for several reasons that we're going to talk about in today's video, it actually makes perfect sense why Dragon Ball Super Hero has way more pirated footage, and we're going to talk about the long-term impact on how this could affect the anime community as a whole. For many reasons that we don't have to go too in-depth for, there's been a general increase in anime pirating. The more available anime gets, the easier it is for it to be stolen and shared, and it's very easy to find pirated footage in general. But to be more specific, there has been a significant increase over the last few years when it comes to anime footage, and for a very good reason. The pandemic hit, and I was reading several articles before recording this and seeing that some articles were saying that it rose by 26 times, some were talking about a more moderate number, about approximately 15%, and approximately $9 billion, if you convert the Japanese yen to American dollars, has been lost worth of pirated footage. So yeah, there's been a significant increase, and the primary reason for this is that we are entering, I guess you could say, a post-pandemic world. Well, I mean, you could say it still exists, but you get the point that we're getting at here. But during the onset of the pandemic, there was a significant increase in people staying at home, and there was a significant and sharp increase in the amount of people that had more quote-unquote free time and were watching anime. And when people have a lot more free time, they always have that great saying, idle time is the devil's worship. So, you know, with more time and more time available for a lot of people, they were watching a lot more anime, and there was an increase in pirating. Now, how does all of this relate to Dragon Ball Super Hero? Well, I think, and there's no information to 100% confirm this, but if we use some logical reasoning, one thing that is clear is that Japan has always been a lot more strict on pirating footage as compared to the Western countries that pirate, right? Obviously. They have a lot harsher penalties. If you see what I'm posting right here, sometimes you could face imprisonment up to 10 years for this. So, this is a very serious thing in Japan. But at the same time, I'm going to introduce to you a concept that I learned in economics while we were studying the black market, and it's basically the concept of flooding. The way that flooding works is that if I'm the only person that goes to a store to steal something, right? And I get caught, I'm gonna get in a lot of trouble. But if I go into a store with hundreds of people to rob it, depending on what's gonna happen, it's gonna be pretty difficult to get all of us. Some of us are gonna get caught, probably, but the more people flood the piracy market, the less probability there is for them to get caught. Now, I'm not saying by any stretch of imagination that this is like a joined effort between pirates. Okay, let's just all go in and flood. No, I'm not saying that. But when you combine the natural increase and the natural demand for pirating, that definitely means a lot more people would be willing to pirate. And if people feel they can probably not get caught because there's so many other pirates doing it and they're no longer respecting Japanese law, then that would also mean that in general, you're going to have a lot more pirates for this specific movie than Dragon Ball Super Broly. Because Dragon Ball Super Broly came out in 2018, at least in the West, and that was in a pre-pandemic world, so it would make sense why the pirating was a lot lower for that movie as compared to what it is for Dragon Ball Super Hero. So ultimately, I mean, I think when everything is clear, when you factor in the flooding, when you factor in that pirates have a lot more work to do because they have a much greater audience to supply to, when you consider that there's been such an increase in the demand for pirated footage, especially with this post-pandemic world, all of this makes sense why this movie is pirated so much more than Dragon Ball Super Broly. And like I said, I had a conversation with some friends on Discord about this, and when I explained all of these things, they all understood exactly why this movie is a lot more pirated, even though it's quote-unquote less popular. And let's talk a little bit more about the long-term impact on this. So, as we've said before, there's no way to really stop pirating. It's never gonna go away, you know, because the thing is that what you can really do is you can go after the original pirates if you can somehow find them. But the thing is that about finding a pirate online is that once that pirate puts the footage out there, then somebody's gonna share that pirate's footage with somebody else, and then that person's gonna share that pirate's footage with somebody else, and then now it becomes a more complicated game where that pirate's original footage was shared between so many different people that you don't know exactly who the original pirate was, so it gets a lot more complicated. And if more people flood the market, this will become a long-term problem. But at the end of the day, there's still enough people that are gonna quote-unquote pay and use legitimate means to acquire or watch these movies. $9 billion of pirated footage was lost, but that doesn't also factor in how much money they still made overall because of their natural products. Because like I said, pirates are always going to exist, bootlegging has always existed, but you're still going to make more money than you're going to lose anyways. I mean, it's with all movies, it's not even just anime in Japan. So ultimately, piracy is more of a problem when it comes to like anime stuff. I think more so for live action movies, it's obviously a lot lower, especially in the West. But ultimately, I think that it's just going to be a part of our life forever. I don't think there's any real solution to this. I just think that, I mean, you can crack down, but it's not gonna stop the problem. It's just gonna catch more often than there were before, but it's still not gonna stop, especially when there's an increasing demand for piracy coming up in the future. So you can't stop that many people online from putting something out. It's impossible. It's just not gonna happen. And I think as far as Dragon Ball Super Broly and Dragon Ball Super Superhero go, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the actual popularity differences between both of the movies. And I honestly feel like Dragon Ball fans revealed with the lower interest in this movie, because the ratings are down for this movie relative to Dragon Ball Super Broly, that Dragon Ball fans really don't know what they want. And I'm not saying that in an offensive way, I'm saying that in a very honest way. If you've been in the Dragon Ball community like I have over the last few decades, you know, you would know that Dragon Ball fans have always been, you know, wanting a movie or other characters to shine. And this movie gave shine towards Gohan and Piccolo. Goku and Vegeta were barely in the movie. Fans want other characters to get more shine. This movie has a plot that's completely focused on Gohan and Piccolo. Goku and Vegeta aren't involved at all, and the ratings are down. Now, granted, there could be other factors as to why the ratings are down. Some people still might be cautious of COVID, you know, all of that stuff. That's another conversation, but the point is, at the end of the day, Dragon Ball fans revealed that they really still want mainstream type movies like Dragon Ball Super Broly, where the two focuses of the film are Goku and Vegeta against this big monstrous Broly. Three big popular Saiyans, along with Frieza. I mean, it's impossible for a movie like that to fail when you factor in that Goku, Vegeta, Broly, and Frieza are the main characters. So ultimately, I think at the end of the day, when we factor everything in, we say we want these things, but our heart really wants the mainstream stuff. Me personally, I really liked the movie, and I'm gonna talk more about it in depth in another video, but I found it was great, and you can say that's maybe because Piccolo and Gohan are my two favorite characters, but regardless of that, I thought it was a pretty good film. There are some things that could definitely have been improved, and we'll talk about that more in a separate video, but my opinion is very different from what the majority of the Dragon Ball fan base wants, because the majority of the fans always want whatever is mainstream, and that shows that it might have been a good film, but it's not a mainstream film that fans are gonna move head over heels to watch, because the two main characters that everybody has seen getting shine over the last few decades were not really featured in it, and therefore the interest will be down, even though fans always say that they want other characters to shine. You see the conundrum that we're getting into this community, guys. It's a repetitive cycle of fans saying they want this, then when they get it, they don't like it, and then it's like, but you said you wanted other characters to shine, and then when we give other characters shine, you don't want to watch it. You know, pick your poison. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Overall, guys, that's been our video for today. Let me know your thoughts on the piracy situation and the popularity of these movies, and we'll talk again soon.